Right, so 2021, first video of 2021. Yeah, this is weird because we've just come out of what is possibly the worst year of my life ever, the worst year in the history of ever. And we're going into a year that is shaping up to be even worse. So, with that being said, I'm gonna talk about Spider-Man Last Remains, because anything to get us off the reality of a third lockdown and everything else that's been going on in the world. But basically, I'm gonna talk about Spider-Man. I'm gonna talk about Spider-Man Last Remains because I love this fucking book. I love everything about it. If you watched my last video, you'll know that Spider-Man was my favourite, the best book, in my opinion, of 2020, which had some stiff competition because King and Black came out in that year. And, well, King and Black's still coming out, but that's beside the point. Spider-Man Last Remains is the latest story arc by Nick Spencer, who's been writing a pretty okay Spider-Man run so far. It's been better than Dan Slott, but then again, anything, you could get a monkey to write a comic book and it'll be better than Dan Slott. But this book has been going from strength to I don't even know, to that's okay, to that's pretty good, to that's just a range of average. And then issue 50 came out and it just went like this. The upward spectrum of this book has been phenomenal to see, and it's now my favourite book going on at the moment, taking over Venom, which was going from strength to strength, and King and Black, which, you know, the first issue of King and Black got my favourite single issue of last year. But this has just been really good. Since issue 50, we're now on issue 55. There was a whole gaggle of tie-ins. I say that, but there was only one tie-in, and even that was like in the context of the book itself. It was still like, it was just a 0.1 issue of like the Last Remains. At Last Remains, it had issue 51, then issue 51.1 or 0.5, and I think that's a really interesting way to do events, especially these single character based events like this, where it's only to do with like the Spider family. I would have hated there to be a Last Remains tie-in in the Miles book, or a Last Remains tie-in in the Spider-Woman book, or in Gwen's book. If Spider-Woman or Gwen even have books going out at the moment, I don't know. But yeah, the whole like tie-in thing is something that really bugs me and really annoys me. So I'm glad that this didn't have any of those. I'm glad that this was just a story arc that had a few extra issues that are kind of important, but you're gonna be given them anyway. They're gonna be put in your like standing order if you're getting them in physicals. They're gonna get put into the Amazing Spider-Man category if you're reading this on the Marvel Comics or Comixology app. If you're reading this digitally, it will be lumped in with Amazing Spider-Man. And if you're reading this physically, then you're going to be given these books as well. They're still a part of the run. They're not like, you know, something that's going on over there, and then this is a tie-in that's like talking about what Deadpool's doing during Last Remains, because he's already got a tie-in for King and Black, but that's neither here nor there. Yeah, I'm going to talk about the actual storyline, not just like the whole thing around it, because as much as I like how that was handled, this is still a comic book, and it's still a storyline, and I'm still reviewing the storyline. And as for the storyline itself, it's like the most bare bones, like back to kind of basics Spider-Man story, but there's so many little things going on in the background. Like, some people have been saying that this is like too much, and it should have just been Spider-Man, Kindred face to face, and that be the story. They didn't need all the Norman Osborn stuff, they didn't need the Spider Family stuff, they didn't need the Morland stuff as well, they didn't need Wilson Fisk to be a big part, but he was a part of the start of the run, where he was like face to face with Kindred, and Kindred did some fucked up shit to him at the start of the run. But now that Kingpin's now that that's come full circle, oh no, it's too much and there's too many characters being involved. My question is, why isn't Mysterio involved now, when Mysterio is such a big thing in the first like half of this storyline? They just kind of forgot that he's a character now. And yeah, like all of this has been building up to be like a massive thing, and now it's a massive thing. Some people don't like the idea of it being a massive thing. They wanted it to be a more isolated story, which I understand, but also I prefer it being the big bombastic balls to the walls thing. Like, and I know that goes against everything that I said about Spider-Man when they were doing the Doctor Doom arc, where I said Spider-Man works better as a stripped down street level character, but now they're doing a more an arc that leads into his like the mystic side of him, and like there's a lot of Doctor Strange stuff, and there's a lot of stuff like based around that, and I think that's both a really good thing and a really like weird thing as well. Like I don't necessarily like Spider-Man being a mystic character. I don't like him being all about these totems and all about all this stuff, but if it's written well, I can look past just not liking the idea of it. I can look at it as a good story, like when J. Michael Straczynski did Coming Home and he actually introduced it. It was introduced in a clever way that felt like, oh, that makes sense. And then when other writers try and do that, like when Dan Slott did Spider-Verse, I hate to bring up Dan Slott again, but I don't think he kind of understood the story and he didn't really do it very well. I've heard very mixed things about Spider-Verse, and I myself haven't read it, but from what I can tell, like, there's a reason why people don't like Morland whenever he shows up, and whenever he shows up there's a big ugh, and oh, why is this guy here? And I think Dan Slott may be the reason for that, because he kind of forces Morland to be the big bad of every Spider-Verse event, and a lot of people don't really like the idea of the Spider Family. I don't mind it. I kind of prefer when Spider-Man's on his own, but if they really need a Spider Family, then it's there. I guess they're all compelling characters enough on their own, and I kind of like seeing Spider-Man, and I kind of like Peter and Miles and how their relationship is. I think they should interact a bit more, but I like how there's that like mentorship, and like Peter and Miles is a lot like Peter and Tony in the MCU, and I like that. I like that dynamic. I just wish that they did more with that in the comics, and there was more crossover between those two characters. Gwen, I think, should just stay her own thing. And Spider-Woman was never really a big Spider-Man character in the first place. She was kind of her own thing anyway. I don't know why In recent years, she's been like a part of the Spider family when she's like completely different. That's not what her character is. She was an Avenger. She was like very linked with Iron Man and that kind of, and Shield and that kind of like part of the Marvel universe. And now she's a Spider-Man character and she's street level. And what? Why? And she was fighting crime while she was pregnant? What? What? But yeah, that's neither here nor there, and that's not relevant to the story either. But yeah, I really like how this story is so like multifaceted, and like you've got the Spider family who are doing their own thing, and you've got Peter who's just being tortured by Kindred for like the whole story, and then like the final issue, the latest issue 56, or is it issue 55? I can't remember, but it will go up on screen anyway. Issue 55, I fucking loved, and that could have cemented this as being the best thing of 2020, but unfortunately the issue came out in 2021, and you know, weird. But yeah, just seeing like Norman Osborn and Kindred, who, spoiler alert, is Harry Osborn. If you didn't know that, you know, you just got spoils for a story for a comic that's been out for 2 months now, so you should have really read it by now. Plus it's Amazing Spider-Man. Who's reading comics and isn't reading Amazing Spider-Man? You know, you should be reading Amazing Spider-Man. It's really good. But yeah, Kindred, Harry Osborn, the whole thing to do with that, they haven't really revealed why he's gone evil. They've teased it, and they've said, oh, it's because of Mary Jane. Oh, it's because of the lies that Peter told about Norman. Oh, it's because of this. And then there's this tease that's always there of one more day. And I think Mephisto probably has something to do with maybe giving Harry these powers, or maybe he's manipulating all these events, or maybe Kindred isn't even Harry to begin with. Maybe it is Mephisto using Harry's face. Maybe that's what it all is. I really like this because it's getting a conversation going. It's getting people to theorize what is going to happen next. And with the inclusion of Wilson Fisk, and with Norman Osborn being such a big prevalent thing again in Spider-Man comics, I really, really want to see where this goes. And this has piqued my interest, and it's made me really excited to see where Spider-Man goes in the future. And that's something that I haven't said about a Spider-Man book in forever. It's something that I've never said about Nick Spencer's run for the first 50 issues. It's something that I never said while Stan Slott was on the book. I think I haven't felt this kind of excited about a Spider-Man book since I read J. Michael Straczynski's run. And I read J. Michael Straczynski's run way after the fact. Way after he, actually writ the book. But that was my first introduction to comics, and now that's a big thing again, or a kind of important thing again. There's been a lot of J. Michael Straczynski nods in this, and it feels like it's either undoing One More Day or cementing One More Day as this is the status quo. These two characters, Mary Jane and Peter Parker, cannot be together. They're just, and when they are together, bad things happen. I still feel like Mary Jane's gonna die in when this whole storyline is actually done. Last Remains is finished, but Kindred isn't defeated. The end of Last Remains isn't the end of the story. It's just kind of the end of this arc, and where they go forward, and like all of the aftermath of this storyline is going to be huge. It's going to be massive, and it's going to impact so many corners of like the Spider-Man mythos that I cannot wait. I cannot wait to see what happens next. I cannot wait to see like where they go with Spider-Man now in the future, when Nick Spencer's taking the story. What is actually Kindred's motivation, and what is the one more day thing, and why is that so important? Why has that been referenced so much? Because it's got to be like a link to, like, there's got to be some kind of link to Mephisto, or something to do with One More Day, and the biggest thing out of One More Day is the connection to Mephisto. So there's got to be something out of that, and maybe this is Mephisto, because the run so far has been leading to Peter Parker wanting to propose to Mary Jane again. So maybe this is just Mephisto trying to stop that from happening, and he's going to end up killing Mary Jane because of it. And Kindred isn't even like Harry Osborn. It's just a thing that's been sent by Mephisto using the face of Harry Osborn to as like an agent of chaos, to just destroy this relationship and like make sure it doesn't happen. And that has me really intrigued. Yeah, it kind of like fucks up. Oh, this big bad that you've been setting up for 50 issues is just an underling to a big bad that already exists. That kind of sucks, but also it would be fucking cool, wouldn't it? It'd be fucking cool, wouldn't it? For that to be the storyline. And I feel like this is going to take 100 issues to actually get to the end point of where Nick Spencer wants to take this run. I feel like it is going to be like a very long-winded storyline, and I don't have a problem with that. I mean, a lot of people probably would have a problem with that, but I don't have a problem with that. I think that this whole Kindred stuff is engaging enough now at this point to probably run for another 50 issues or another 45 issues. I really think that. Anyways, that is my full synopsis, rundown, review-ish of Spider-Man Last Remains. I personally think that this is the best Spider-Man book that has been on the shelves in ages, in forever. And if you agree with me, put it down in the comments below. If you disagree with me, put it down in the comments below, and I will see you guys in the next video. Make sure you follow me on Twitch. I've started streaming again as of yesterday, streaming every day at 9 PM British time. I'll see you guys there. Peace.